close to the 2024 mid-year Justin and Tyler Movie Awards, and we are now moving into the people section of the awards, where we talk about our best actors, best actresses, and best directors so far of 2024. And of course, if you've watched this in years past, the way that we do this is we have a dark horse and a selection. So rather than in the regular awards where we do 3 honorable mentions and a top 3, it's a dark horse and a winner for our mid-year selections. Anything you'd like to add before we get into this?
No.
Okay, let's roll. So we are going to start with our best actors of 2024 so far. So my dark horse selection for best actor so far in 2024, and I have to look at this to make sure I get it right, it is Ryland Brixton Cole Tewes in Hundreds of Beavers. So he plays John Kayak, and the reason that he's my dark horse here is because it's essentially a silent movie performance.
Yeah.
He's basically Charlie Chaplin. Right? Like, there's virtually no dialogue in the whole movie. So you have to tell the whole story with body language and with movement and with facial expressions and whatever. And to still tell exactly the story that they want to tell and to follow an actual narrative without actually saying anything is an incredible talent, and not something that I expected to get out of this Goofy Beaver movie, but I got it in a big bad way, and I just think that is a really high talent performance from him. So he's my dark horse so far. I'm not sure where he's going to land at the end of the year. Who knows? And that's the fun of talking about it now. But Ryland Brixton Cole Tewes, 4 names instead of 2 names,
Jesus,
in Hundreds of Beavers is my dark horse selection.
I like this pick a lot. In this day and age, we never get these types of performances.
Right.
Now, you go back to like the 20s, this would have been nothing.
Right, exactly.
I mean, if this movie was made like exactly as it was, it would be something. But you know what I mean? This type of performance, and we're like, yeah, so what? We can throw a rock, and we come across, I'm not saying necessarily quality-wise, just type-wise, right? So,
but he'd be up against like 16 Charlie Chaplin performances, right? So it's like, okay.
So, but even still, it'd still be like, this is noticeable, right? So, but especially in context of you're not going to see a movie with a performance like this, really, right? Because we don't see them.
No.
You know the closest we get? We get like Art the Clown.
Yes.
That's like the closest we get. And they're 2 entirely different things. That works.
Yes, somewhat different.
Terrifier 3 coming out later this year.
That's true.
Anyway. Yeah, I like this pick. Good job. My dark horse is Russell Crowe.
Ooh. In what?
So, I'm going to get to it.
My bad.
So the idea of dark horse being someone who unexpectedly succeeds, right? Now, obviously, big name, right? But he's put in 2 solid roles so far this year, and they're both a little bit different. 1, Land of Bad. And 2, Sleeping Dogs. Someone made a joke about that after Gladiator, he shot Land of Bad and just let himself get fat and do a role he wants to do. And it does come across as like a passion role, like a passion thing for him. And Sleeping Dogs is an earnest portrayal of a retired detective who can't remember things, who starts investigating a case from his past. No massive outbursts, just kind of a low-key, confusion with like a solemn face that tells a lot of stories. He looks gruff. He looks how you think the character feels.
Right.
And I like troubled detective roles in general. Is either performance good enough by itself to land him in the top 3 or honorable mention, although that's easier to get into? No. But together, he's got a shot, right? And plus he's got a few other roles I think scheduled for this year. So we might be seeing Russell Crowe slide in as a body of work at the end of the year. And like I'm not really a Russell Crowe fan. You know what I mean? Like I like him, but I'm not like, oh yeah, it's Russell Crowe. But I really like him this year though, so far. Even though neither of these movies, I think Land of Bad is actually, I think they're both pretty good, but also very overlooked. So, but you might be seeing them later.
And my selection for Best Actor so far in 2024, I'm going to go with Kingsley Ben-Adir for Bob Marley, One Love.
I should watch that.
And I like the way he so encapsulates Bob Marley in this movie. And this is a movie that I like more than most people. It seems anyway.
Right.
Especially like critically, this was not received very well. I think Rotten Tomatoes is like a 43 or something like that. So like not received very well. The audience tended to really like it, but critics did not. That's because critics were expecting something different, and we'll probably get into that at some point. But specifically, Kingsley Ben-Adir, he completely committed himself to like recreating himself as Bob Marley, and he did so exceptionally well with it, right down to, I remember seeing an interview with him talking about making sure that he was being very accurate with the way they spoke. So like Kingsley's given a couple of interviews about how intense the language preparation was for this movie, and making sure that like his patois was on point, and making sure that it was a realistic and like an honoring representation of the sort of the like Rastafarianism and like all the spirituality that Bob Marley held in his music and in his personal life. So I just feel like that's a real achievement from a performance perspective, and somebody that obviously took that job very seriously. So Kingsley Ben-Adir is my selection up to this point for Bob Marley, One Love.
I turned that movie on one day, got about 2 minutes in, was like, I don't want to watch this. Cause I know you really like it, so I want to watch it, but I'm not the audience.
Right.
And I'm not saying I won't come out of it when I do watch it being like, oh, this was really good. But I will say that he's a good actor.
Yes.
Because he was in One Night in Miami, a movie that I think I gave the whole ensemble of people award.
You did, yes.
And he was Malcolm X. And that was one of the better roles in the movie. He's really good at bringing real people to life on screen. Yeah. So I give him a lot of props for that, but I haven't seen this movie yet, so.
I think when you do get around to seeing it, I think you're going to really enjoy it.
Yeah, I could see that movie being something where I give him props even if I don't love the movie. Like, that's kind of my prediction. But could be wrong. Maybe I come up with the best movie of the year, boys.
Wouldn't that would be tremendous.
Hey, who knows? All right, so for my selection, we're going to go with something a little bit different.
Okay.
We're going to go with Ryan Gosling in The Fall Guy.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just picking a fun performance. You know what? That means a lot to me. So I'm going to start this off. Someone on Letterboxd said, Ryan Gosling's Riz could power a nation. There it is.
That's a really good line.
That's an excellent line, which I'll probably reuse at the end of the year, because I can see this guy being top 3 at the end of the year. I said it when I talked about him and Barbie, he can play a convincing loser, even though you know he could get any girl he wants. And he's not a loser in this, per se, but he also listens to Taylor Swift in a truck and cries. And he can do, like, he can be really cool and do stuff like that. You know, like...
Now, is it OG Taylor Swift or Taylor's version Taylor Swift?
God, I don't even remember what Taylor Swift song it was.
Go ahead.
To be honest, there isn't really a ton to say. I just really like watching Ryan Gosling, and like he got to be the lead role in this. Plus, his chemistry with Emily Blunt is fantastic. Just absolutely brilliant. I mean, she's brilliant, but like, yeah, we got to give props to my boy, one of my boys. Ryan Gosling.
We move now to our best actresses so far in 2024, and Tyler's going to start us off with his dark horse.
All right, my dark horse for best actress is Sydney Sweeney.
Oh, okay. Body of work?
Mostly immaculate, really.
Okay.
Spoiler, I'm trying to get her in to best actress because she's grown on me a lot this year. Even just like listening to interviews with her, I think she's pretty cool, honestly. I put her dark horse because I do really like her performance in Immaculate, and then she does have body of work to help her, especially if she has something else. She has like that one other movie or whatever scheduled, I think.
Yes.
So maybe it will be body of work, but if I had to pick now, it would just be basically Immaculate. Because Madame Web, it wasn't enough to really, it was fine.
Right.
I wouldn't count it.
And I mean, technically, Anyone But You was still in theaters at the beginning of the year.
But
So
I don't even count that one.
No.
But okay, but I mean, fair enough. I bet she was really great in that too. The reason it's dark horse is because I don't know that she's quite there yet on it. Like, because there's still moments in Immaculate that she kind of just doesn't handle it well. But then there's the scene where you mentioned earlier at the end where she handled it beautifully.
Oh man.
So there is like some little holes in her acting, I think. So, but because I want her to get on there, like if I can find a reason to get her on even my honorable mentions at the end of the year, I will. But I'm not gonna force it, obviously. I'm rooting for her. Like I know that her star has grown exponentially over the last couple of years, and I don't watch Euphoria, so she was not on the radar with me, but now she is. So now I want her to win. I'm rooting for her, even though she doesn't need me to root for her because she's the it girl in Hollywood now. But yeah, Sydney Sweeney. Let's see if she makes it at the end of the year. It's tough. It's tough for the women. Like this year, I have so many choices for the women that she has. She's in a tough crowd, so I'm not sure, but she could show up.
My dark horse for Best Actress in 2024 is Sophie Nélisse for Arena's Vow.
I considered her.
Yeah, and I think if there's going to be anything, first of all, Canadian, but if there's anything that's going to kind of hold her back at the end of the year, she doesn't have anything else on the schedule. She's her other kind of main role that people really know her for is the TV series Yellow Jackets.
Oh yeah.
Which she's been in since I think 2020. So she to my knowledge, doesn't have anything else film-wise lined up for this year. But as Irena Gut in this specific role, I just thought she was amazing. I thought she was so, especially for somebody that doesn't really have a name that like people will see on a marquee and go, oh yeah. It was one of the, like, I guess if this was, I would consider this a debut performance from my perspective, because I don't think I've seen her ever in anything else. But on that level, it's like, wow, she like really kind of hit the ground running for me with Arena's Vow. I just thought she did tremendous work there, and I think as a singular performance, it'll probably be enough to be somewhere at the end of the year. But it's again, because you kind of mentioned it too, and I feel exactly the same. The competition with the actress performances, even for me this year, is very, very, very competitive. So it'll be that's why she's my dark horse for right now. But she really impressed me in Arena's Vow.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. I don't have anything else to add, but she was easily the highlight of that movie. It's not a movie I absolutely loved, but I did love her performance. I think she was great.
Absolutely.
All right, my selection for Best Actress so far is Jenna Ortega in Miller's Girl.
Oh.
This is my girl. So you're a sports guy, you like stats. She was number one, I think, in the first mid-years for me.
Ooh, but she might have been.
But she didn't launch into number one that year. So can she do it this year? Maybe, because I really like this performance. People don't love this movie for a variety of reasons that we don't need to get into concerning the people. Maybe I don't know if it'll come up later, or maybe it'll come up at the end of the year. I don't know. But the performance, superb. Like, she's so expressive with her eyes. That's her thing, right? She just says it all with her eyes, which is amazing. She hits it all. Sympathetic. There's a heel turn. She's seductive. She's smart. She's like dark and mischievous. She's to be honest, she's absolutely deadly in this movie. No wonder her teacher wanted to bang her. Because I gotta be honest, man. I'm a teacher. I'm retiring so I can bang this chick and be morally sound. Because, like, she is so... I'm watching it, I'm like, damn, I get it, bro. Right. I get it. You're like 50 or... I can't remember how old the other guy is. Like 50, 60? Anyway. She has another movie coming. Winter, spring, summer, or fall, which will only strengthen her chances, I'm assuming, if it comes out. So there's a very real possibility that Miss Ortega ascends to her throne this year. So we'll see. Jenna Ortega in Miller's Girl.
Nice, very good. Yeah, I knew that movie wasn't getting a tremendous reception, and it reminds me very much of actually one of my favorite books that's released in the last... probably close to, well, basically since the time I've been working in the industry. And the story is very similar. The book is My Dark Vanessa, which is, the concept is similar. But I knew that Miller's Girl wasn't getting tremendous reception. I haven't yet gotten a chance to see it, but it is on the radar that I do want to see.
Yeah, I'm curious what you think, because like some people just don't like the movie for a variety of technical reasons and whatnot, but the big part, I think, is just the subject matter.
Right.
And I'm really curious to because I don't really mind the subject matter, but I saw like write-ups and stuff being like, this is just wrong, and it's like, okay, but whatever. I think it's a pretty good movie, honestly. I don't hate it, but I love her performance. Right now, that's what matters.
Exactly. And my selection for Best Actress of 2024 so far is Nell Tiger-Free from The First Omen. I called it an utter star-making performance. She's the main character who, again, I have referred to this movie as the good version of Immaculate, because I wasn't a huge fan of Immaculate, with the exception of kind of what I mentioned a little before. And I just thought that Nell Tiger-Free running the gamut of emotion in this movie. And she's another one who, like Sophie Nélisse, I've never really heard of before. So I don't know if this was like one of her first kind of primary roles or not. But I thought she was spellbinding in this movie. And I think that's a movie that was probably better than I had expectations that it was going to be going into it, because the genre and the concept, and I was like, gosh, this is like the second movie this year about Immaculate Conception, basically. So I was like, all right, what's this gonna, and it released, I think, several weeks after Immaculate, so they were even in theaters within a pretty close time frame from each other. But Nell Tiger-Free, I thought, was just incredible in this movie. And that's right now she is my front runner for Best Actress. Whether she holds on or not, I don't know. I don't know if she's got anything else coming down the pipe this year, but right now she would definitely be my front runner. I'm an idiot. I just realized she played Myrcella Baratheon in Game of Thrones. I'm dumb. And now we go to our best directors so far in 2024. I will kick things off with my dark horse, which is Dev Patel. Obviously made his directorial debut with Monkey Man, and that is a movie that has a very distinct visual style, very distinct action, very distinct high violence, and there's a reason that, like, if you Google anything about Monkey Man, it's like, is Monkey Man in the John Wick universe? Is Monkey Man Indian John Wick? Is Monkey Man this? Is Monkey Man that? There's a reason for that, because it is very reminiscent of a John Wick movie, and it had a very specific visual style, tone, everything that Dev Patel set out to do, and I feel like he accomplished it exceptionally well. I think the fight choreography in that movie is really, really good, and all that kind of comes back to the director, and given that it is a directorial debut, makes it all that more special. I'm positive Dev Patel will be on the list at the end of the year. Right now, he's my dark horse.
It's a good movie, Monkey Man is.
I was kind of, this is a little inside baseball, but I was kind of between whether Dev Patel would be a dark horse in actor or director, because obviously I enjoyed him very much in that movie as kid, but I was like, you know what, I think the directing, because I knew going in that Dev Patel is an actor that I liked. Yeah. I didn't know whether he was going to be a director that I liked, so I feel like that's where it kind of had the bigger impact for me.
That's sound logic.
Inside baseball.
So my dark horse pick for director is Jade Bartlett for Miller's Girl again.
Oh,
I forgot that I put this on there.
Nice.
This movie is pretentious in every way.
Okay.
Even visually. But I like that Jade leans into it. You know, it's shot well. It definitely isn't boring to look at. It's got rich gothic atmosphere, some cool shots. I mean, this movie is about people who read Finnegan's Wake by James Joyce for fun.
Yes.
So,
okay, yep.
So, I mean, it's about people who say literature instead of books. So it's all taken very seriously. And I think that Jade's visual presence here and the performances reflect that. As we said, people didn't like this movie. I don't know that it's because of how it looks. That's all I got to say, really, except for, it's a dark horse in the sense that it didn't make a splash. The movie didn't make a splash at all. It actually incited some disgust. So if it succeeds at the end of the year, that's like the definition of dark horse. But I do really like this. I like this movie a lot on a technical level. So there's very real possibility that she gets on #1 defender of Miller's Girl.
And my selection for Best Director so far in 2024 is a director that I know at least one person watching this, probably watching this anyway, will vehemently disagree with. But it is Justin and Tyler Movie Awards Hall of Famer, Denis Villeneuve.
Denis Villeneuve.
The man, the myth, the legend, Denis Villeneuve does it again with Dune Part 2. And I know there are some people who really do not like his visual style in these movies. I would call those people wrong.
Of all the things to dislike, that?
Yeah.
The directing?
Well, but there's not much color. There's so much sand. But like, what are you supposed to do about that? You can't make the sand multicolored. Like, you just.
I don't love looking. I gotta be honest. I don't love looking at so much sand. But I'm not like Villeneuve sucks because of it. It's like, I'm sorry. This is what the movie is saying.
No, I like. We have established for a long time on this show that, like, Denis Villeneuve is the owner of a very, very specific, and I would call it signature visual and creative style. Yeah. And you know right from the jump that a movie is a Denis Villeneuve movie, especially if it's in the sci-fi realm, which the majority of his biggest work is. Dune 2 definitely does. He will be on this list at the end of the year. Whether he's #1, I don't know, but right now he's my #1.
Yeah, I just wish obviously I'm joining in on the love because I love him too. I just don't love Dune.
Right.
Either of them, so I'm like a little I'm like this with Villeneuve until he gets into this Dune thing, and then hopefully whatever he does after Dune I really, really love again, because he really is one of the best directors working today.
You know what he's doing after Dune? Exec producing the Dune TV show.
But hopefully he directs something that isn't Dune.
True.
Alright, so my selection is Luca Guadagnino for Challengers.
Yeah.
I've used the term militant satire before. This is militant directing. It is so in your face. From the camera angles to the aggressive placement of music to the performances. It goes hard like a tennis player. It calls attention to itself. If done poorly, this is an absolute failure.
Right.
Because I can completely understand why somebody would think this is obnoxious. Thing is, I don't even love this guy's work. I think Bones and all, and Call Me By Your Name are both 6 out of 10 movies. I feel that, Call Me By Your Name is especially overrated. But I think he even makes some of the flaws of his style work here, such as when he makes a shot go on for way too long, but then the bill concludes with something really great. And it's so visually distinct. And I really ended up liking Challengers a lot more than I anticipated. I expected to like it. I like Zendaya a lot, I've realized.
Yeah, I think she's tremendous.
Yeah, but what I didn't expect was, really, I gotta be honest, I didn't expect this movie to look like it did. Like, really, it's a really well-shot movie, so that's my pick. Luca Guadagnino, and I actually write down how to pronounce his last name because otherwise I'll screw it up. And I probably still did. But anyway, yeah, for Challengers.
Nice, very good. I like that choice a lot. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen, let's poop on some bad stuff. This is going to be our #1 worst movie of 2024 so far, and I think I would like to start with this. I think I have a comical choice for this, and it's gonna be tough, I think, for a movie to be worse than this year. It's gonna be tough. Doesn't mean it can't happen, but it's gonna be tough. My selection for worst movie of 2024 so far is H.P. Lovecraft's The Old Ones.
I haven't watched that yet, even though I was literally the one that told you about it.
You were.
I didn't watch it because I figured it would be bad.
So thank you for that. Now, I understand that, like, some Lovecraft movies in the past have been this way. I have no doubt in my mind that there's an audience for this movie made exactly the way that it's made. And they're going to be like, yes, Lovecraft is comedy. And I get it. There's some people that just love that shit. Clearly, I am not one of them.
This is a comedy?
No, but many people take Lovecraft's material and look at it and be like, oh, it's comedy. It's all comedy. And it's all to be presented this way.
What? Who are these people?
I don't know. These people are weird. I would like to start my review of this movie by saying suspenseful / dramatic / ominous / mysterious orchestral music continues. So I was watching this movie with subtitles on because I think they were just baked into the version of the movie that I was watching. I don't think I could turn them off. I shit you not, every 10 seconds, that subtitle would pop up. It would pop up and say, ominous orchestral music continues. Threatening orchestral music continues.
Yeah, like, we get it.
Like, I get it, there's music in the background, and it's constant. But honestly, every 10 seconds, it would just keep popping up. So, maybe, because this is like one of the worst screenplays of all time. And I've said that about a number of movies over the last couple of years, but this is competitive with any of them. And I'm sure that some of this was like direct verbiage from Lovecraft. Because obviously, Lovecraft can get a little alphabet soupy. And that's, I get it. He's building it, like, it's an entire mythology. So,
I like his mythology more than his writing from what I've read.
Yeah. But it doesn't help when it's delivered with all the enthusiasm but none of the talent of a 4th grade play. Some of the, they hit some of these lines real hard, but I'm like, what are you even saying? Those are all words that probably exist somewhere, at least within the lexicon of H.P. Lovecraft, but this means absolutely nothing. The lowlights of this movie include rubber-faced monsters, which are like, that just comes with the territory in Lovecraft. But even these rubber-faced monsters look like they got their monster masks off of Temu or something. Like, they're not even like the good cheesy rubber-faced monsters. Like, they just look like they're made with like dish gloves. Like, just terrible.
Yeah.
Random naked girl existing in a field for no reason. She's just kind of there. Another dream sequence, by the way.
Great.
And this movie commits...
Can't wait to watch that.
Exactly. This movie commits the cardinal sin of dream sequence within dream sequence within dream sequence. This fucking guy wakes up like 4 times. So it's just daisy chaining them one after another. Apparently, salt kills tentacle monsters. Don't tell the hentai girls. There's multiple scenes in this where it's just 2 characters sitting at a table just exposition ferrying the crap out of each other like a bunch of drunken reprobates, just taking 15 minutes to try to explain the baffling non-narrative of this movie. Like, this movie, it almost doesn't have a story. But they are trying so hard to explain where they are, what they're doing, and why they're doing it. Old gods making goofy sex faces.
Yeah, how's that a negative?
So there's a point in the movie where the 2 main characters have to like enter an old god's stomach.
No, I thought you were gonna say enter an old god oh, cool. You're actually watching the porn version?
Exactly. But no, there's an old god and a mouth. Like a mouth opens in his stomach, and they have to climb into it to be transported to another place to get to another dude that's got the technology for the one guy to go back in time and prevent ever seeing the light. Like, it's all whatever. So obviously they have about $6 for a special effects budget, so they can't actually show them doing that.
Right.
So they show the computer-generated mouth opening, and then a shot comes up to the old god's face, and he's just like, like they're just down there, like gargling him. And they cut back and forth from that shot like 6 or 7 times, and there's just so much more. This is garbage on a mythical level. Like, I didn't know that movies could be as bad as this, and I saw Shudder. So, look, that for now, this is definitely the worst movie of the year, and again, it's going to take something really, really special to be worse than this.
Yeah, indie movies. So there's two things about like indies. Like you were talking about music, that it always seemed like there was music playing. That's something I noticed with bad, like low budget movies, is they feel the need to constantly have like music. And a lot of time, this is more so in action movies, but maybe it's true for other genres as well. Is like there's always this like pounding, like not necessarily orchestral, but like something just loud and aggressive, and it's like, but why do you always have this playing? Like, you don't need to have music all the time, first of all. Second of all, it doesn't have to be like... Dun, 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 dun. It's like...
The camera's slowly crawling down a hallway. There's not even any people. But it's just like this pounding music.
Yeah,
like
a normal person, if you're going to have music, might be like just some like ambient, like some dark ambient or something. But like these bad movies are just constantly like... Dun, 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 dun. It's like, okay, stop.
If we're loud, they won't notice how bad we are.
Yeah, and then the other thing about like indie movies... I always feel bad about picking on the indies because, like, they're obviously usually people, you know, they don't have the budget and whatnot, but you also have to acknowledge your limitations.
Right.
Right? And it sounds like this movie was just making some really poor choices of how to get around the fact that they don't have a massive budget, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I actually wasn't going to watch this. Like, I want to watch a Lovecraft movie, but then I was like, this probably sucks. But now that you've seen it, I probably have to watch it. All right, so my worst movie pick. It's not technically the worst movie of the year. I just thought this was kind of a more interesting pick because I think my worst movie is like just some lesser known, like kind of like yours, but I didn't go that route. But it is this is bad, and I like it because this was well received. So mine is Sasquatch Sunset.
Ooh, this was so well received.
Yeah,
oh,
and it doesn't deserve it.
Ooh, okay.
Let me just start by reading my criticker.
Sure.
Mostly painfully unfunny, though it hits a couple times. I rated it a 3 out of 10, so there are like moments, right?
Right.
Weird tonal shifts from absurd to gross that don't feel earned, usually boring. Some shots linger way too long. It's definitely a pretty movie, and I imagine that shooting it was a lot of fun because the actors got to dress up and just grunt. But that silliness doesn't come across here, even when it's trying. It kind of works as a drama, but kind of is damning. Is a damning compliment in this case. Too long, could have worked as a short film. Like, there are some positives. Here's a scene that mostly worked. When they see a road and they get scared and they pee and poop on it.
Okay.
But then even that goes a step too far when the female starts lactating on it. And I mention that because this is what this movie does. It takes a joke to the point where it stops being funny. Another scene that worked, when they discover a stereo and feel too emotional from the music, so they smash the campsite. Now, that was good. That was a good thing. But there are maybe a couple other scenes that work, but... And some bad movies don't have any scenes that work, but I hate this movie because the rest of it wastes my time. You know what I mean? Like... People say that it's trying to say something about humans and nature, but is it? Like, what's so profound about animals going around doing animal things? Like, the two scenes that work kind of touch on it, but it's not profound or even much of anything besides a decent setup for a joke. But, I really thought I was going to like this. And I did at first, until I realized it was a meandering mess, disguised as a movie worth my time. And to explain, like, tonal shifts. It might be a silly comedy, then flip into a serious drama, and then a gross-out almost horror at times, though not all the gross parts are horror-esque. And sometimes I appreciate that. I don't appreciate it here, because none of it works and comes across as try-hard. Like, you can say, oh, this is what nature is like, and sure, but it doesn't lean into any of it, really. Even the silliness, which is probably the most common mood it's going for, is toothless. It's almost too artsy to be truly silly, too aware of itself, but not in a wink-wink way. It's in a, I'm too cool to look too silly, so I'll just do this little bit here, and it comes across as like stinted, you know. You know who probably would have done this movie well? The directors of Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Okay.
Like, specifically because, like, Swiss Army Man was an objectively great film. And I would have liked to see them because they would have injected some real personality. This is just... It's like, it's trying so hard to just get by on, like, hey, like, there's, like, Jesse Eisenberg as a Sasquatch, and you're going...
Right.
And I watched it, and I'm like, I couldn't believe I couldn't believe that so many people love this movie. I'm just not seeing it all. I was actually bored. I was like, oh my god, can this please be over? But again, it's not the worst movie of the year. If it gets on at the end of the year, it'll probably be either honorable mention or maybe like 5 or 4. Like, it's not going to be the worst. So there are, like, I complimented it. Like, I don't have the same vitriol as you do for this one, but that was by design of wanting to pick a kind of off the board pick for this. Right? Because nobody picks this movie.
No.
for worst movie. But
No,
I
definitely
did
not.
because it was a waste of my time.
Damn. And now, folks, before we go into our favorite movies so far of 2024 and what we're most anticipating for the rest of the year, what's it time for, Tyler?
Fans' choice!
We're going to do the fans' choice for 2024 so far. I have, of course, solicited input from our friends and fans about what movies you have enjoyed the most so far in 2024. And we're going to do this basically the exact same way that we do it at the end of the year, where I've compiled the information, we have a top 5, Tyler is going to predict what your 5 favorite movies are so far in 2024, and we'll see how accurate your boy is going to be. Do you have any questions before we get started?
No.
Okay.
I'm about to go to war with your fan.
What I will say is you do have a couple of extra cracks at the can because there is a tie towards the bottom. So you actually have 7 bullets.
Yeah, I do.
To get your 5.
Alright. And I'm still going to do poorly. Yay.
So, we start by Tyler. Before I say anything, Tyler predicts the top 5.
Have mercy on me. Alright, number 5.
Yes.
The Fall Guy.
Okay.
Number 4, I'm changing what I originally had. I'm going to pick Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Okay.
Number 3, Hundreds of Beavers.
Okay.
2, Furiosa.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1, Dune Part 2.
Okay. I do have, however, a collection of movies which did not make that grouping.
Yep.
Here is that group of movies that fall just short of your top 5, including ties. Madame Web.
Wow.
Yeah. Argyle.
Okay.
Godzilla X Kong The New Empire. Challengers.
I took that out of number 4.
There you go. Nice.
I'm glad I did.
If, so Imaginary Friends.
Yeah.
Lisa Frankenstein.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there's a couple in here that are going to hurt you.
Yay.
So Furiosa.
Oh, that's that low.
Yeah, that was that.
I wonder if it's because it's fairly new.
That could very well be.
I was wary on putting it in because of how new it is, but I also know that it's beloved by those who've seen it.
True. So Furiosa, unfortunately, is done, which means your number 2 is done as well.
Sad.
The Fall Guy.
Sad.
So The Fall Guy is out, and your number 5
Damn, my
is out.
sucking.
And Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Damn, the one I replaced it with.
Yeah, you're screwed either way on that one. So, unfortunately, now these were movies that did get support, but fell short of the top 5. So that is 3 of Tyler's choices, which are not in the top 5.
Now we get the feeling that one I figured I should have put in probably got in there, but we'll see if it's in there.
All right. So now we have a 4-way tie for 4th place. So again, these would have hit the top 5. They all have the same amount of support, about 6.5%, but these were the ones that were in a tie for 4th. Late Night with the Devil, which I think is getting more acclaim than...
I had that in my list of movies to maybe slot in there.
Oh, yeah. The First Omen.
Interesting.
Monkey Man. And Boy Kills World.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You guys are doing good.
Yeah. I like that. Good job.
So all of those, again, were tied for 4th place.
Because that movie wasn't loved. Boy Kills World. Boy Meets World.
Boy Meets World. Very different movie.
Boy Kills World wasn't this like super beloved movie reception, but that's awesome. Cool. I'm happy.
In 3rd place, all alone, 9.7% of support. Nearly 1 in 10 was for this.
Civil War.
Hundreds of Beavers.
Did I put that number 3?
You put that number 3.
Yeah, I knew I liked that movie.
So Tyler snipes the fans' choice number 3 with Hundreds of Beavers.
I knew! Yay!
Well
I got
done.
One. I'm happy. I got one.
You got one. You nailed it. Number 2,
Can't get this one.
with 16.1% of support, is Abigail.
What? Really?
Yes, people
Really?
loving on Abigail.
Oh my god. So, inside baseball, but I considered her for best character, like Abigail.
Yeah.
So I actually think that the Abigail character was really cool.
Yeah.
But to see that movie, wow. Okay.
And it's funny because I think like that's another one of those where like I could have made a nice argument for her as best debut character because I think we're gonna see more.
Yeah.
Like I do think we're probably gonna get another one of those movies.
Yeah. Yeah, she was great.
Yeah, I thought she was really good.
Great.
But yeah, Abigail, 16.1%.
Shock.
Big. They loved on it. And number 1 with 19.4%, you nailed it with Dune Part 2. So it did not start off very well for you, sir.
No.
But you did snipe number 3 and number 1 in the fans' choice. And just so everybody knows, just so everybody doesn't think that this is some kind of fugazi between the two of us, when I solicit folks on Facebook for their favorite movies, he's blocked from seeing it.
Yeah, I am.
He cannot see, even if somebody tags you, tries to tag you in it, they can't.
Yeah.
So he has no method, and I talk about it in groups which he is not in. So he has no way of seeing this feedback from any of you unless I'm a dummy and go to Twitter or something, and then you can see it. But on Facebook, which is where I do the vast majority of this, and in person, you are not able to see any of it.
Yeah,
So just because people, like, we do this all the time, and I'm just wondering if people are sitting there thinking, like, well, I'm sure they probably arranged some of this. No, this is not a fugazi in any sense of the word. He's just that good.
Yeah, I'm surprised Civil War didn't get in there.
Yeah, I guess nobody talked about Civil War at all, which was kind of interesting. All right, folks, it is now time for our best movies of 2024 so far. The way we do this, of course, for the mid-years is we have 2 honorable mentions apiece and then a top 5. So we'll give our honorable mentions first, talk about them a little bit, and then go into our top 5 lists where we go back and forth. Tyler, would you like to kick us off with your 2 honorable mentions?
Sure, I'll do that. I think both of mine are cheaters. So
Okay.
My 2 are Robot Dreams and Baby Assassins 2.
Oh, okay.
So, Robot Dreams is a beautiful animated movie with no dialogue, mostly about the relationship between dog and robot, and it's heartbreaking, but leaves you on an uplifting note, which is nice and kind of explores loneliness, and human connection, but explores kind of even like place and time. Like you meet somebody and maybe they don't stay your friend. your whole life. Maybe they just are only there for 6 months, you know? But they had an impact. Those 6 months, you know, were something important to you, right? So it kind of explores like that kind of idea of like maybe this person will not always be in your life, but they still were crucial to your life. There's like one little flaw, unless somebody can explain it away and I just look stupid, but there's a part really early on where like dog and robot get separated. I try not to spoil too much because maybe you'll want to watch it after I've mentioned it multiple times. Where I just kind of wonder why dog didn't do something different than what he did. Because it kind of felt like they were kind of forcing a drama that they didn't need to. But you know what? It didn't matter, really, because that whole movie was glorious. And in terms of Baby Assassins 2, I'm not even going to really look at my notes for this because it's just honorable mention. But I just... Loki got in this, like, franchise now because there's 2 movies. And I think they're working on a 3rd that I really love. And it's just about these 2, I think, teen girls who are also just assassins as their job. And it's not really an action movie. They're not action movies. Like, they have some action in them, but I think the mistake that some people make is that they go in thinking it's going to be more action than there is. They're kind of more drama comedies with a little bit of action. But I just love watching these idiots. Like, because they're just teen girls who are doing a terrible, like, they're assassins, right? But they're like, but they're best friends, and there's like the drama of being best friends and the drama of being teen girls, but then in the context of like they also kill people and stuff. Like, I really like this franchise.
That's a pair of movies that I have not seen, but you definitely mentioned Baby Assassins 2 to me. I don't know that you mentioned Robot Dreams. You might have.
I think I might have early on.
Okay.
But I don't recommend Baby Assassins 2 necessarily for you, but I think Robot Dreams is one you should watch. I think you'd really like it, to be honest.
My 2 honorable mentions for best movies so far in 2024 are Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, as well as Bob Marley, One Love. Now, Bob Marley was one of like the first movies that I saw from this year. I would say probably the first really good movie that I saw this year, that I felt anyway, that I thought was a really good movie. And like that's, again, I talked about it a little bit earlier, and I just felt like Kingsley Ben-Adir was so good, completely giving himself over to that character of Bob Marley. And again, I now understand why critics didn't receive that movie so well, because it was firmly an expectations thing, because they expected to go into that movie and get a full life biopic of Bob Marley's life.
Okay.
And that's not what the movie is. The movie is a biopic of a very specific 2-year period where he does the concert and does the Exodus album. But I was like, if you go in there without that expectation, I think you wind up enjoying the movie more. And I think they wanted the movie to be more political than it was, because Bob Marley was a very political figure and his music is very political as well. So I think they wanted it to be more of that and didn't quite get as much of that. So again, firmly an expectations thing, but that didn't grate me at all, because I just went in with like, let the movie tell me its story, and the story that it told me I thought was really good. And now with Furiosa, kind of the same thing. At the end of it, it is grated on some people that there was an uptick with that movie in the use of CGI. And like, not because like with Fury Road, it was so much practical, and with Furiosa, there's less of an emphasis on practical, more of an emphasis on CGI. And I think it does become apparent at a certain point in the movie, but that doesn't, it didn't really bother me all that much. It doesn't lean on me the way that I know it's leaned on other people. Furiosa's origin story here, it doesn't really leave me with the same kind of sort of visceral, emotional impact that Fury Road did. I don't think it's quite as good as a movie, but it's big action, bombastic sound. I'm really glad that I got to see it in IMAX, even though it was very, very loud. Like, super, super loud in IMAX. So you can do without seeing it, but if you're gonna see a movie in IMAX, it might as well be one like this. And I feel like it leads into that story of Fury Road exceptionally well. And like as a 2-part, like back-to-back double feature, I think it would be excellent. So I still really enjoyed Furiosa. I obviously really enjoyed Bob Marley as well. They're my 2 honorable mentions.
Yeah, I'm expecting to like Furiosa a lot, but not as much as Fury Road. That's my prediction. So.
Yeah.
Well, I'll see it. I'll probably see it in a few weeks, assuming it does hit digital. All right, so my number 5 pick is Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire. You know what? I'll just start off with a little bit of a negative. I don't think this is as good as Godzilla vs. Kong. I think Godzilla vs. Kong is a 9.5. I don't like this as much.
Wow.
Yeah, that movie's perfect for what it was. Really,
Yeah.
It's a big action movie. You know, they booked Godzilla vs. Kong really well. Like, it was great. This, more of a Kong movie, which is fine. But am I gonna sit here and say that I didn't love this movie? No, because like I felt the emotions of it. I was excited. I was invested the entire time. But it also this movie kind of proves why critics get a reputation, whether just or unjust, for being unfun, uptight losers. Because they're like, this movie doesn't offer much but monsters. And then fans are like, this is everything you're looking for from kaijus.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, this is a fun movie regardless. It may not be as good as I think it is, but I mean the fans liked it quite a bit too.
I think in my review I used the term "big meaty kaiju slapping meat" the movie, and I was like, that's exactly what I'm looking for.
Yeah, like I wish I would have rewatched, because you had a criticism of how the build didn't amount to much for Godzilla, and I feel like I disagree, because I wrote a note here about that, but I'll just say I loved the build of it. I do wish we would have seen more Godzilla. I'm not saying, like, I really did, because I came out of it being like, man, I wish we would have seen more Godzilla, considering it's not a Kong movie by name, right?
Right.
But I liked it because he's on the move for most of it, which is just a scary thing to think about.
It is.
Because when he moves, he's not going, well, let's see how we can tiptoe around these cities. He's like, he's basically like, you know, I remember what happened with Mecha Godzilla. And I sensed something really big coming. So I'm going to go to where I got to do to supercharge so I can beat up whatever prick is coming out, right? And then meanwhile, Kong is over here being like, he's trying to find a family while investigating a mystery. And I'm like, that's emotional. Kong, to be honest, is usually the emotional aspect of it, right? Because Godzilla's kind of a force.
Yes.
More than Kong, right? Because Kong's supposed to represent humanity more than Godzilla is, and because Godzilla's more nature.
Yes.
Right? And while I wish I could remember the ending, I just, like I said, I remember liking the ending. Like, I really like this movie. I really like this entire series. Honestly.
Yeah.
So while it is a step down from Godzilla vs. Kong, I think most monster movies are. So I'm not going to be too hard on it. Yeah, I love this movie.
And I really dig at the end when like Godzilla goes back and just like cuddles up inside the Coliseum. I'm just like, look how cute he is.
Well, you know what the funny thing about every time I see Godzilla's face is I think of Bun Bun. Because look at his face. His face is kind of cute in a way. It's really weird. I look at him, I go, oh.
My number 5 best movie of 2024 so far is The First Omen. And I mentioned it before, what I think was the absolute star-making performance of Nell Tiger-Free that underscores probably one of the surprises of the year for me so far. Because I think I went into this with very little in terms of expectation. Again, coming off of seeing Immaculate, not enjoying it all that much. I went in with very low expectations. So maybe this is just the benefit of lowered expectations. But again, I got what I think is so far the best female performance of the year, or certainly one of them. And I feel like it's a movie that sets exactly the right atmosphere, intensity, tone, all of that to credit to its director. And it makes me want to go back to see the original. And that's not something that I think I can say very often, but like it makes me want to go back and watch a movie that came out 50 years ago. And there's not a lot of movies that I think can do that. I think The First Omen is a slow burn of a movie that takes its time getting to you. And I said this in my review, although I think I've softened on this a little bit, but I was going hard in the paint on this one. In my review for this movie, I said Immaculate should feel embarrassed to have come out this year with this movie coming out at the same time. I've softened on that a little bit because that's just me being aggressive for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, that's unprovoked aggression.
It absolutely that's.
But I like it.
That's Immaculate catching a stray that it probably doesn't deserve.
Yeah, they're twin movies. You know,
fair enough.
Twin movies.
Yeah. The First Omen, number 5.
I don't like The First Omen, and I think Immaculate is better.
Ooh.
Not that I think Immaculate's a brilliant movie. Mm-hmm. I found The First Omen kind of boring. I think Immaculate does almost everything better, except for maybe some directorial choices in The First Omen are better, like more interesting to look at, although I also think that some shots linger way too long. I don't think that it has the atmosphere of Immaculate. I think there's parts that are really silly, like even at the beginning when you see the back of the guy's head and it's split open and the movie starts. I'm like, meh. Or when the girl at the end is freaking out after the car crash, or the way some people look, honestly, there's a scene where the camera starts freaking out. I didn't like that. There are small bits in this that I think are really inspired. But I also feel like it comes across as like an inexperienced director flapping around wildly instead of someone who makes every shot deliberate and meaningful. Oh, I did like it actually. I see that I rated it a 5.5, so I did like it, but I just had serious problems with it.
Wow.
I'm disagreeing with you on the first two.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. All right.
Yeah, it's okay. You know what I mean? Like, it's fine. I kind of had higher hopes seeing how it was received and stuff, and I don't know. I just kind of got bored. And Immaculate didn't make me bored, although I do agree that the lead actress was really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, I won't go on too much more about Immaculate, because then you're like, oh, I'm gonna fight you in the next one.
Oh, I can't wait.
Because you were so like that.
It's true. I'm
petty.
I'm such a spiteful, vindictive person.
Yeah. All right, we'll just go into my number 4. I've talked about it a bunch. I won't spend too much time on it. It's Challengers. This movie romanticizes tennis to the point that it's silly. And maybe it knows it's silly, but then maybe it doesn't. This movie is about being in love with tennis. And then there's like a 3-way. But this movie, all they talk about is tennis, really.
As tennis players are wont to do.
Yeah, but the thing is, I can totally understand why somebody might not like this movie. This is so full of itself, you know what I mean? And like, that's the thing, like, if like Luca Guadagnino or whatever is like taking everything 100% serious, then he's probably failed. But I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. I think that he knows that these 3 people being so obsessed with tennis is kind of ridiculous.
Right.
But then, like, just on a technical level, the performances are all good. The guys were good too. But I really like Zendaya. And I've talked about the music, loving the music. And the shots. I mean, the shots can fall victim to what I just got done criticizing The First Omen for, though, too. That's the thing. But I also like the payoff more in Challengers. Plus, they're 2 different movies. Because I really only watched it because of Zendaya.
Right. I think that's the only reason a lot of people are
watching. Yeah. I was like, Zendaya. I really like her. I've given her an award once or twice. I really like Zendaya. So, anyway.
Nice.
And the fans like Challengers.
Yes, this is true.
So, I'm in line with the fans.
My number 4 best movie of 2024 so far is The King Tide. Again, a really interesting piece of Canadian cinema that does take place. I think it takes place in Newfoundland. They don't expressly say that it's Newfoundland, but there's definitely some stuff in there that leads you to believe that it's Newfoundland. And it feels like an elongated Twilight Zone episode, really. Like, it feels like a 2-hour-long Twilight Zone episode. And it explores, like, ideas of family, isolationism, like tribalism, fear, like the how easy it is to develop like certainly a cult of personality, if not just a straight up cult around this child, this miracle child who just washes ashore, and then all of a sudden life is beautiful and perfect and nothing ever goes wrong in this island and everybody's leaving them alone, and then all of a sudden she loses her powers. And then people are starting to age again. People are starting to get sick again. The people from the mainland are starting to encroach on them again. And it's this looming, it's the pressure and fear of everything that these people have known since Isla's arrival is now turning upside down on their heads. And they just want to go back to the way things were, and how extreme the lengths they're willing to go to ensure that they get to keep living the comfortable life that they've come to know since Isla's arrival. So it's really interesting because it begins in such a way that you're like, wow, they really love this girl. And it's like, oh no, they're just using this girl. So yeah, there's a lot to sink your teeth into here with The King Tide. Christian Sparks was the director here, who's a name I've never heard before. I thought he did an incredible job, and it has such a gut punch of an ending that I alluded to earlier, that it makes for such a satisfying finish to the movie. And I really think it was landmark and something special. So I think Christian Sparks did a great job, and The King Tide, my number 4. Best movie of 2024 so far.
I have to make a note to see this, so I will do so.
Excellent.
So for my number 3, I'm going with a fan's choice, and this will explain why I was so excited that they put it in their top 5. Boy Kills World.
Oh, very nice.
I'm with all of you.
Wow.
On this. We are on the war wagon for this film because it was not super well received, at least by critics and on Rotten Tomatoes and stuff. Mm-hmm. I think it's liked, but it's not loved. I'm gonna make your experience a little easier if you choose to watch it.
Sure.
So there's a narrator in this movie, and it's H. John Benjamin of Archer, and it's very noticeable, recognizable voice, right?
Yep.
It threw me off at the beginning. It really did. And I was like, oh man. I was like, it was a little silly. You know that going in. I think it makes it a little easier. I ended up. The narrator voice kind of justified itself in the end in the same way that I talked about a plot twist later too, and I thought it was fine. So it had to get over that, but you know what? But it didn't matter at a certain point. Early on, it was a little rough, but then I kind of got into it and just accepted it for what it was. Because I kind of expected it to be a lot more serious than it was. Because I never watched the trailer. I just knew Bill Skarsgård in an action movie. That cool, let's go.
Yeah.
Right. This is very video game influenced in a lot of ways, even narratively. Mm-hmm. Video games play a big part, and the music slaps. Skarsgård handles the gritty, ridiculous violence really well. The plot is fine. The premise is cool. The world is kind of neat. I wouldn't say it's the most amazing plot in the world, but a lot of these action movies don't have the deepest plot. But really, I just love action movies, so if you give me some really inspired fight scenes, which this has, a sense of style, which this has, good performance, even though Skarsgård doesn't talk, and so he does it physically, he does good acting physically. I think this movie is very, I guess, overlooked or underrated, I suppose, from not by your fans and your friends, but from other people, so I'm giving it some love too. So Boy Kills World is my number 3 best movie of the year so far.
Very nice. My number 3 best movie of 2024 so far is Dev Patel's Monkey Man. And I wasn't I had high hopes for the movie, but I kind of tried to suppress them a little bit because I could feel myself starting to get caught up in the whole Indian John Wick thing. And I was like, well, let's not set our bar there. You know what I mean?
Is way too high of a bar.
It's very, very, very difficult to match. But this is one of those movie experiences where you've got somebody who shows a ton of chops in front of the camera, a ton of chops behind the camera as well. Very stylish, high violence story of one man's quest for vengeance, but who also then gets wrapped up in fighting the systemic abuses that are all around him. And I don't know who had transgender warrior monks on their bingo card for 2024, but whoever did have it, give yourself a pat on the back, because what a call that was. And some people found that to be a very, like, where the hell is this movie going? Like, when that part of the movie hits, they're just like, oh, this is like... the whole tone of the movie changes, and it was displeasing for some people. It wasn't really for me. Like, I just kind of felt it was the next, not necessarily a natural progression in the story, but it's like, this is just the next step in the story, and that's fine. Monkey Man's my number 3. I had a ton of fun. I really enjoyed that movie. I hope we see more from the Monkey Man universe. And honestly, if they wanted to integrate If they wanted to integrate Monkey Man into the John Wick universe, I feel like they could do it. I don't necessarily know that they will, but I feel like they could.
Yo, he's getting washed if he goes against John Wick.
Oh no, not necessarily going up against John Wick.
He's getting washed. I don't love this movie, but I like it. I don't think there's anything to really hate. I don't love the build. Watching the build for him, like the build of him becoming what he ended up becoming. I'm not really. It kind of lost me a little bit. But I do like the exploration of, like, political corruption and whatnot. That's all I really remember.
Yeah.
At this point. I do like it, though. I'm just going to leave that. I do like it. I expected to like it more than I did, though. That's, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know why something like that doesn't hit, but, like, Boy Kills World does.
Right.
For me, you know, it's just personal flavor, taste, whatever. All right, my number 2 is going to be kind of short, because it's not really a movie that there's, like, a ton to say, even though I really enjoyed it. The Fall Guy.
Hey.
I mean, there's never going to be a world where there's a movie with Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt in an action movie that I dislike. That world doesn't exist. It doesn't exist in the multiverse. You know? Because those are like 2 of my favorite people in Hollywood. And they're doing a fun action movie. And it's a love letter to stunt people. And there's a scene that I won't ruin. Because I don't remember if you saw it or not. I won't ruin too much, but the way that an action sequence incorporates the stunt men and women and stuff is really cool. It's just ultimately a good time at the movies, as generic as that sounds. It's not a movie you come out like, wow, I'm really pondering deep questions. It's like, no, this is just charming people being charming. And it's obvious, like, because David Leitch? Leitch? Like, he is a stunt coordinator.
Yes.
Right? And that's abundantly clear, his love for the industry that he came up in, right? And that really shows on the screen. And,
yeah.
And so it's cool. The movie's all right.
Shot through the marketing of that movie's really good.
It's such a tragedy that this movie flopped. Like, I said something to a coworker where I was just talking about movies. I'm like, well, it's not always the good movies that do well. I can't remember why I was talking about it. He's like, really? I'm like, yeah, there's amazing movies that just flop. And I think The Fall Guy is one of them. I just think it's sad. It sucks that it didn't do well.
It's an interesting commentary, right? Because the lazy argument is, well, Hollywood's failing because it's all these sequels. Here's a completely original piece that's a love letter to a portion of the movie industry, and it with A-list celebrities.
Yeah,
and
a good director.
Yeah,
right.
It's like, so what say you now?
Yeah,
this wasn't Ghostbusters 12, right? Like, it was a unique piece. So what is it? So my number 2 best movie of 2024 so far. You talked in your last one about a love letter to, stunt people and a love letter to a portion of the movie industry. My number 2 is a love letter to the state of Wisconsin. Hundreds of Beavers.
Yeah.
So look, again, the way I've described this movie to so many people who are just like, what are you even talking about? Is imagine the most, like, avant-garde, weird director you can think of. And for most people, it's, they think of sort of fairly specific people. I wouldn't ask that question to you because we've come up with some doozies.
I've seen some weird movies.
Exactly. I was like, now picture that person making a Charlie Chaplin movie. And that's the way Hundreds of Beavers is like an acid trip. Like it's just the weirdest, most unique piece of cinema maybe that I've ever seen. And again, I at the end of it, I'm just like, I don't remember dropping acid before I watched this movie, and it shouldn't work. It's not a concept that should work. And then after 110 minutes, I'm like, I want to go back there and experience that again for the first time. Like, experiencing that for the first time, even in my hotel room, not on a big screen. Like, just a baffling comedy, slapstick, almost like not silent, but like no real dialogue throughout the whole thing, featuring a bunch of dudes in a bunch of like beaver suits that, like I say, like they looked like they got them from like Temu or something. And yet, if I could buy one of those suits, I'd probably buy one.
Yeah, they're cool.
I ain't a furry, but I want the beaver suit from this
I want to
movie.
do the movie awards at the end of the year wearing those suits.
Oh my god! If we could get those suits, like it's just a weird movie, man, and it's dripping in.
It's just a weird movie, man.
It is. Justin. It's dripping in running gags, pantomime, physical comedy, and when it gets to the end, it has not run out of its like, I can't look away from this movie appeal. And that's what it was. It was like the whole time I'm like, I can't look away. And again, it's baffling, which means everyone should see it. So Hundreds of Beavers, my number 2 best movie so far of 2024.
Well, so I predicted that would be his number 1.
Right.
And I was wrong. I'm going to just add that this movie is basically a satisfying survival gameplay loop.
Yes.
As we watch him just get better and better and better. I was like, look, this is like a video game.
Like a literal world map.
Yeah.
And he's just going from point to point on the world map.
Yeah, this is a really inventive, lovely movie where the creativity is basically off the charts. And, you know, it's not a massive budget, and it used every dollar effectively. And, you know, another example of how to make a really great movie with a limited budget, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going to ruin your life, too, by saying that it's not my number 1. We guessed consensus that Hundreds of Beavers was going to be each of our number 1 movies, but I had a traffic jam of 9 out of 10s.
Okay.
And I probably could have put, to be honest, I probably could have put Hundreds of Beavers in my honorable mention. I just ran out of space. Mm-hmm. So the one I went with is the one that, as of right now, this could obviously change. This is the movie that came closest to a 9.5 for me. So I was like, I'll give this number 1.
Okay.
Late Night with the Devil.
Wow. Okay.
The fans got it. The fans got it right.
Wow.
Okay, so the thing with Late Night with the Devil, like, I feel the same way as I kind of do about Hundreds of Beavers, in the sense that while I didn't give it awards for individual things, I did consider, like, I can't remember the lead actor's name. I did consider him for Best Actor. I did consider the director for Best Director, but we have limited spaces. But holistically, I just think it's a brilliant movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to win individual awards for me to just be a yeah, but the way it's all put together is awesome.
Better than the sum of its parts.
Yeah, so it's, even though I think that the lead performance is awesome, it's just we had 2 spaces. For, you know what I mean? Like, he could get in there at the end of the year. I just chose not to pick him. The setup for this movie is brilliant. Like, just like one late night episode that just goes completely off the rails, and it's filmed like that, and you kind of see like the behind the scenes bits like cut, and then it shows like behind the scenes of them still filming. Yeah. And you just watch how this movie goes insane. And I'm not saying it's the scariest movie. There's not really much in the way of jump scares, even though it's a horror. It's just kind of a creepy atmosphere, and I just find it interesting. There's a part later on where it starts to kind of abandon its gimmick, and I don't mean that in a bad way, a little bit, but then the end makes up for it, so I don't really care that it kind of went a little bit different. I just love this movie because it's just a cool premise, a cool setup. It's kind of like Like, remember, like, you loved more than I did, but I really liked, like, the Vast of Night.
Yes.
And it just had, like, a cool idea, and that was the one that kind of had the Twilight Zone type thing, wasn't it?
Yes.
Like, that I wasn't a huge fan of in this one, but I still appreciate that it was kind of going for being a, you know, this is, like, literally just an episode of Late Night.
Yeah.
That is just bonkers, and it examines these people that come on, and there's a guy in there I hated, but that's the point. And like a skeptic and stuff. He's like, oh, this, as things are happening, he's just like, oh, this is why this is happening. Oh, and then, but it's like, no, you're just being like haunted. Like, one of the great like horror movies of, you know, the 2010s onward, we'll say. Like, I really, really love this movie.
Wow, that's awesome. That one came out of left field. I never would have expected that.
Yeah, I don't think I would have really either, to be honest. I kind of watched it and was like, wow. Like, should I rate this 9.5? I'm like, no, it would be like a 9.2 or 3 if I did this. Because I don't know that it's not on the level of like A Quiet Place or something, which I rated a 9.5, right?
Right.
But it's really good, and in ways it's close, you know? But I do love this movie, and I'm glad the fans do too.
9.3 rounds up to a 9.5.
Yeah.
Which leads to my number one best movie of 2024 so far, Dune Part 2. And when I reviewed this movie, I called it a definitive monument to the genre. And this is after, and I mean, like, I've seen this movie 3 times. 3 times? 4 times. 3 times.
Holy.
I'm pretty sure it's 3. I'll probably watch it again before the awards at the end of the year. Because I'm gonna have a fight on my hands between this and Hundreds of Beavers. So
You're gonna have to rewatch both.
I'm gonna have to rewatch both.
That was like me last year.
And who knows? There could be something else that comes into that as well. You know, one of the greatest sci-fi movies ever made by a creative force in Denis Villeneuve at, I think, like, the peak of his power. Like, I think this might be the best movie that he ever makes. I don't necessarily know that, you know, Dune Messiah, when it comes out, will be better than this. Maybe it will be. This movie was more accessible in the way it tells its story than the first one, because the first one you have to build the world from scratch. So I kind of get like there's a lot of like family dynamics and a lot of characters that are getting introduced, and you're just trying to build the world. You come into the second one, and it's like with the Lord of the Rings, the same thing. When you like a good portion of the Fellowship of the Ring, you have to build Middle Earth. Same deal with this. You have to build Arrakis. You have to build these families. You have to build the universe that it's taking place in the first one. In the second one, you're in there. You're picking it up where you left off. You've already built the world. Let's go. So I do find that the narrative was more accessible that way. I loved the progression of Paul and Jessica as they kind of tumble down the spire of like religious zealotry and like the personal exceptionalism, not only of like the Atreides family and Paul specifically, but also of, you know, Jessica and the background that she comes from, and being like the basically the puppet masters of these people on Arrakis, and from a religious perspective. Part 3 can't come fast enough. So Denny, if you wouldn't mind getting on that, I personally would really appreciate it. So Dune Part 2 is my number one of 2024 so far.
For some reason I thought you liked this one less than the first part, but maybe, I don't know where I got that from. Best movie that Villeneuve is ever gonna do?
Maybe.
He already made the best movie. There's a cameo in Blade Runner. But, I don't know, man. I do like this one more than the first. I'm going to try to keep this positive. Because I've kind of poo-pooed some of your picks here a little bit. Even though I've liked, I think, every movie you've mentioned, right?
Right.
So, but,
I mean, the first Omen was probably the closest.
Yeah, but I still ultimately liked it. Although I was a lot harsher on that movie. But, like, I'm not gonna poo-poo on this too much. I do think it is an improvement in all the ways you said. I do like what you said about, like, the religious cult and whatnot, and wait, Jessica Zendaya's character?
No, Jessica is Rebecca Ferguson.
Oh. What's
his mother.
What's Zendaya's character?
Oh.
Anyway, Zendaya, I like her reaction to when Paul kind of accepts his...
Yeah,
that was
when he's giving like one of the greatest speeches in movie history. Like
I gotta be honest, that was the first time in the movie where I started to like connect with it.
Right.
In a way that I didn't connect with Dune 1 or that movie up to that point. I was like, oh, I'm like, ooh, okay. Like, then it got me. If the rest of the movie would have been like that, for me, like, would have been able to get me invested, then I probably would have really, really liked it. It would have been a drastic jump from the first one for me. Yeah. But I just got to accept that I don't love these movies. I like them. Right. I go and I watch them.
So there you have it, folks. Late Night with the Devil and Dune Part 2, our #1 best movies of 2024 so far. And we are going to close things off by talking about the 5 movies apiece that we are most anticipating for the rest of 2024. So, kicking things off, my #5 most anticipated movie for the rest of 2024 is Maxine. I don't think it's released yet. No. So obviously I really enjoyed X and I really enjoyed Pearl, and Maxine I think is going to bring this story to a close with this character, and I'm just, like I say, just based off the strength that I feel anyway from those 2 movies, I can't wait to kind of close the loop on that Ty West trilogy, and I've done both of those movies and can't wait for the third one.
Yeah, I mean, Mia Goth is going to be awesome again. I don't love these movies, but I'm also going to close... I'm going to close the loop, too.
Okay.
I like Pearl more than X, for some reason.
Right.
But, yeah, they're pretty good. Alright, so my #5, Borderlands. I don't care, I think it looks fun. I wouldn't have chosen some of the cast that they did. I agree with the criticisms of, like, Kevin Hart and Cate Blanchett. Like, I'm just kind of like, eh. Jack Black is Claptrap, though. Yeah, and whoever the chick is Tiny Tina. Actually, I like. Yeah, I think she'll do fine. So like she's completely fine. It's mostly just this 2, but I mean, Eli Roth is doing this movie, which is weird. And I laughed at the trailer, and I thought it looked like just a fun time. So I'm looking forward to Borderlands. I'm really rooting for this one.
Yeah. Yeah, that much for sure. I think there's a lot of people that are they might be kind of scared, but they're rooting for it. So I hope it turns out really well. My #4 most anticipated movie for the rest of 2024 is Sing Sing, and I'm now coming to realize just how much I love Coleman Domingo. So it's a Coleman Domingo movie about his character setting up like a dramatic society, like in prison.
Oh yes, I know this. I was like, what is this movie? Okay, I get it.
And like I said, I just basically from this point on, if I see Coleman Domingo's name on the marquee, I'm like, cool, I'm in, I'm ready for this. And that trailer makes this movie look really, really good. So Sing Sing's my #4.
Nice. I remember seeing the trailer, I think, for that. I'm thinking that looks pretty good.
So, I know it was attached to the King Tide.
It was attached to something else I saw.
Yeah.
I think. 'Cause I did see a trailer for it, and I wouldn't have probably looked otherwise. It was good. It looks good. I'm going to watch it.
Yeah.
So my #4, I know is technically, I think, it's out in festivals and stuff, so we already know that reception's high, but The Bike Riders.
Yes.
I mean...
It's supposed to have come out last year.
Yeah. I mean, Jeff Nichols is a director. He hasn't done a movie since, I think, 2016. He's done some of my favorite modern movies, really, like Shotgun Stories, Mud, Take Shelter. I even liked Loving. I even liked, there was one that wasn't received very well, but I cannot remember for the life of me what it was. I really like Jeff Nichols. And nobody talks about Jeff Nichols. And I also love Tom Hardy. This movie is one of those movies that has all the potential to just clean up awards for me. Best Actor, Best Director. Although I guess not Best Actress, because there's not really a lot of female presence in this.
Right.
So probably not Best Actress, but a Best Movie somewhere in there. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And even if it isn't very good, like, I'd expected more, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this, I have a hard time believing that this won't win some awards. at the end of the year. So I'm really looking forward to the bike riders.
Yeah. And I'm a big Austin Butler fan,
Yeah,
so
you're a
I'm
big
looking
Austin.
forward to it that way as well. My number 3 most anticipated movie for the rest of 2024 is a movie that you just expressed some potential concerns over, and I share those concerns, but I see that trailer for The Crow, and I am so pumped to see that movie.
I want to like it. I want to like it.
I want to believe that movie's going to be like a 95. That like, oh man, I want this to succeed so hard, and I'm looking forward to it, and I'm so terrified that it's not going to.
I got a bad feeling about it. It doesn't look amazing, but I'm hoping.
Is it possible that this concept as a movie is just cursed?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's very, very obviously. But maybe it'll be good.
Maybe it'll be great.
I really want it to be good too. So I get it. I get where you're coming from on this one. My number 3 is Terrifier 3.
Definitely.
It would probably be number 2, but I gotta be honest. I'm a little scared of how disgusted it's gonna make me. Way beyond what you would expect from me, because like I just do not like gore.
It's a miracle. In fact.
Like Terrifier 2, I don't even love Terrifier 2 because of the kills.
Right.
I love pretty much everything else. The kills are like kind of a good contrast between like the more comical nature of Art the Clown. I love Art the Clown as a character.
Mm-hmm.
But like I'm still like really excited for Terrifier 3. It's gonna be one of these movies where I'm about to start. I'm gonna start it and I'm gonna be like they're just gonna like alright, let's go, because you know there's gonna be a lot of really gross stuff.
My number 2 most anticipated movie for the rest of 2024 is Joker Folie à Deux. And another one that I saw the trailer for it attached to Furiosa on a big IMAX screen. And I was certainly like concerned about like, oh my god, you're gonna make this Joker movie that's like basically a jukebox musical.
Yeah.
And it's like, this just seems really weird. Now I'm kind of on board for it now. I think they have a compliment to Joaquin Phoenix there in Lady Gaga, who has completely sold into this concept for this movie specifically, and I get the feeling it's actually going to be great, like not good, great. So I'm very, very excited for Joker Folie à Deux, and I'm a big Joaquin Phoenix mark, so I mean it makes sense. But everything I've seen Lady Gaga do in movies has been pretty good, so I'm quite looking forward to it.
Yeah, Lady Gaga's an exceptionally talented performer. Man, I don't know where I land on this. I'm intrigued by the like genre that he's chosen to make this. Like, I don't know where I'm gonna land on this whatsoever.
I can't wait till Joker 3 comes out and it's a sports movie.
Yeah. The only thing I'm really expecting is I'm expecting to be super impressed by Lady Gaga, like a Best Actress consideration. That's the only thing I feel relatively confident about, because I don't know if I'm gonna like this movie.
Right.
I really don't. So my number 2 is Wolves. Now, I have seen the trailer, and it was a good trailer. I just think this is a winning formula. It's a thriller. I like thrillers. It stars Brad Pitt and George Clooney as 2 fixers assigned to the same job. A premise I love. That's a Tyler premise. And to watch those 2 bounce off of each other, that's going to be great. John Watts breaking away from cranking out the best Spider-Man movies. I said it. For a bit to do this, I like that. Yeah, I don't know what this is going to be for me. I did write down that I would expect this to kind of clean up some awards too, but now that I think about it, this might be one of those things like Late Night with the Devil, where I was saying like holistically, I think it might just be really good.
Yeah.
Because I don't know that I'm going to give... I don't know, because I really like charming Brad Pitt, so I can see like a Brad Pitt getting in Best Actor or whatever. So I am... Ever since I heard of this and who was in it, I was all in. So Wolves.
Nice. Not
Wolves.
Wolves.
It's a weird name.
Wolves.
It's a really weird name, but that's okay.
We each took a brief pause to take a drink before I say our consensus number 1, which is Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah? Alright, fair enough. I figured if there was going to be one consensus in the whole thing, it was going to be Deadpool and Wolverine. Those trailers are really good. and he's here to save the MCU, and God bless him. yeah. Like, look, I don't think we have too much that we really need to convey about Deadpool and Wolverine, but I'm gonna hand the floor over to you. I think I'm excited for obvious reasons, but you go for it.
I'm just the thing is, Deadpool and Punisher are my favorite comic book characters.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have a Deadpool hat, not on, but like, I love Deadpool. I'm expecting this movie to unclog my traffic jam of 9 out of 10s, you know?
Right.
Where it's gonna be like, here's all the 9s, but then here's Deadpool, clearly number 1. This is what I'm expecting. If this movie isn't number 1, I'm gonna be surprised.
Yeah. It might land on I expected more if it's not.
Like, I don't expect it to be your favorite one, because I think Dune and Hundreds of Beavers, like you were kind of saying, will probably be fighting it out. But I expect you to also really love it, obviously. But I expect this to be number 1 for me. I think it's kind of almost a boring year in that regard.
It's not going to suck. That movie's going to be great. So, all right. That is it. Ladies and gentlemen, the Mid-Year Movie Awards has come to a close. We have dropped dime on our top 5 best movies of 2024 so far, the worst of 2024, the fans' choice, what we're anticipating the most, best actors, actresses, and directors, and a ton of fun miscellaneous awards to get started. Thank you so much for taking the time to check out the Mid-Year Movie Awards in 2024. Tyler, do you have anything you want to send us out on?
Yeah, you're all awesome.
You are all awesome. We appreciate you very much because you put up with us now twice a year. That's our piece of genius, but it doesn't exist without you, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you very much. We hope you have enjoyed these videos. We hope you're enjoying the year of 2024 in film. There's still obviously a ton of that year to go, a ton of great stuff still to come out. We just mentioned a bunch of them. And we just hope you're enjoying 2024 in film, and let's have some fun for the rest of the year. That's it for us, Justin and Tyler, the 3rd Mid-Year Justin and Tyler Movie Awards, this time for 2024, and we will see you again in early January.